Bob Switzer is the founder of Astera, a renewable energy developer out of Long Beach, California. Bob, welcome to Earth X.
Thank you very much.
So Astera refers to the stars, I think.
Yeah, Astera does mean star.
And why is that?
Well, because the star produces energy, produces sunlight, and a lot of the things that we enjoy here on Earth come from the sun. So we named it Astera.
And so you started developing solar fields,
right.
Solar panel production fields?
Correct. So when the Inflation Reduction Act was passed, frankly, I read it a number of times, was quite impressed with some of the things in it that allowed us to finance basically the tax credits. I have a background in finance and capital formation. And so I looked at it and I looked very closely at it and I liked it. And I decided that I was going to utilize it, and we put a team together, and that team was focused on solar and battery storage installations and development.
And so you built these solar farms?
Yes, correct.
In several places?
So yes, we have a number of locations in the United States. Our first project is in Colorado. We have one in California and some other areas. But what I did with the Inflation Reduction Act is we were able to finance the project utilizing the tax credits. And that's not always easy because the tax credits are prospective in nature.
Yeah.
And they served as the reward or the security or the deliverable to the lender. And in that transaction with our tax credit investor, we pursued a policy of insurance that wrapped around the transaction that credit enhanced for the benefit of the tax credit investor against recapture with the IRS if the credits are transferred and used and there's an audit and there's a recapture moment. This policy of insurance paid them, and so they had little to no risk, and so we were able to stack that capital up really nicely and reduce the risk for them, and that became our specialty, and that led to our ability to go to these development areas and construct.
So, I mean, what you just said, you said it very clearly, and at the same time, this is not easy for the average person to understand how this works. But that's probably why it's so, ingenious that you were able to figure out how to use government regulation to what it actually is used for, should be used for, to develop renewable energy.
Tax credits financing is not new. The structure we used was very new. We were informed that we were one of the first structures like this. And we realized that because we actually put the insurance out to market through Brown & Brown Insurance in New York, and we got various offers back, and actually AIG, the largest insurance conglomerate in the world, was the best product, and we actually placed our policy with AIG. So it was a very significant transaction, and we were very amazed. And excuse me, so that structure has led to the ability to move forward with other projects. As if you went to a bank and you applied for credit. It's a very unique structure.
Well done. But I would like to ask you, so in this case, government was very helpful in realizing business progress.
We could not have done it without the legislation and the transferability of the credits that were in the Inflation Reduction Act. There's no question. That was all new.
But there are lots of people saying the government should stay out of business.
Oh, well, I disagree with that. I think there's a fine balance. We've talked so much about here at the conference about capital. I was here Monday and I spoke about a number of things, and one of the things was capital and how you blend that and how you balance that.
Can you back up and say the same thing without referring to that you were here and because we're going to use this somewhere else. Generic.
I got you.
So just give me the same answer. So I'm saying to you, I'll back up. Lots of people say the government should stay out of business.
Right. Well, again, I disagree with that statement. I believe that there's a role in blending capital to include what the government provides, what's allowable. And in this instance, it was very novel. And it was the beginning of this type of structure. And it took us a half a year. It was very strenuous, but it works. And it's repeatable. And the thing about the Inflation Reduction Act, which came from government, it's a 10-year time horizon on the tax credit. So it's the first in history, a full decade of this, and it's still in place. So very useful, very useful.
there's no risk that a new administration with different ideas may say, well, we're going to cancel that
Well,
act.
there's risk. You know,
Yeah.
we have a certain side of the aisle that controls both chambers of Congress and in the House and the presidency. There's a risk there. I don't see it happening, and I'll tell you why. It has to do with Treasury and the Internal Revenue Service. You don't make this major shift and expect Treasury to go walking backwards. It took over a year for the IRS to give us guidance. Mm-hmm. We waited and waited for the guidance. It's one thing to have the legislation, but the IRS had to give us guidance. So for a year, we were all waiting for the proper guidance. There's no way, it would be a ridiculous notion, in my view, to repeal that law.
Yeah. So you were starting to develop solar energy based on these opportunities in the legislation of the Inflation Reduction Act.
That's correct.
Then you started running into a familiar problem with the production of renewable energy. That is, sometimes you produce too much because the grid doesn't want you to overload the,
Well, that's correct. You run into time issues. It takes quite a bit of time to get an interconnection. It gets quite a bit of time to get a power purchase arrangement with the utility. And if you think about it, if you're taking 3 or 4 years to get those done, it's so difficult to have your financing come in because it's too speculative. And so these projects, everybody wants to install, but they're very difficult to move through that side of the system. So what we found out is that, well, we need to take a look at how to do what we want to do behind the grid, behind the meter and off grid if we can. And so that sped up some of what we were doing. And so we're focused on really what can we do behind the meter. And that was led by the fact that some of the things that make sense, right, beyond solar, beyond battery storage that you would do with electricity are energy intensive. Mm-hmm. So if we were connected to the grid, we would be burdening the grid, and the grid always has problems with resiliency, redundancy, reliability.
Yeah.
So why make that worse?
Yeah.
And so we found our way into other technologies.
And tell me what that was.
Yeah. So we found our way into what I've been talking about today, or with you earlier, and we have a pyrolysis, technology that will convert. We call it conversion rather than recycling. We convert any industrial plastic, all the bad ones, the ones that are not necessarily being addressed. 90% of the world's plastics are not being addressed, and they're going into the landfill still.
Yes.
So we're addressing the industrial plastics. We're trying to make our dent around the world in reducing plastics that go to the landfill, despite all the good efforts that are going on right now. And so we microwave our plastics with a catalyst that's proprietary to us, and we get carbon black materials, and that includes graphite, graphene, carbon nanotubes, and if we're using polystyrene or styrofoam, which we can get quantum dots that have biomedical applications.
So that indeed is an energy-intensive process, and this is great for you to, when you have excess energy, to use that and to convert that waste.
Correct.
I totally see that. There's another thing that happens at that time. That is, you release lots of gases that are not necessarily very
the material
healthy ones.
Yeah. Well, these are very organic. It's synthetic gases that include hydrogen.
Yes.
Okay, and our system is a closed system, so it's not like this is going up into the air. Okay. So we're not marketing the hydrogen at present, but we are utilizing it in our generators in order to power our system along with our solar panels, and we have battery storage that comes along with each one of our machines. So we're essentially not burdening the grid. Very circular.
And what do you do with these waste materials that are not, you can't sell?
There's nothing left over. We're using the hydrogen internally.
Yeah, that I understand, but whatever, these other gases that you have.
Oh, very small syngases, they're basically captured and they stay in our system. And so there's not a lot of that. It's mostly hydrogen.
So with that system in place, you can seriously address another major problem, that is plastic pollution. So if you think about how you can scale this over time, how much plastic can you convert to energy and graphene?
Yeah, well, we're just happy to get 1 or 2% of all the world's plastics out of the landfill. We're concerned about the environment, obviously. We're concerned about human health as well. And there's an issue about plastics in our landfill, in the air, we're consuming these things, microplastics. They're finding them in the body, and so we're concerned with that, and we want to make the biggest dent we can. In reality, we might get 1 or 2% of the plastics that we're addressing out of the landfill, but we have very big ambitions. We have partnerships in the UAE. We're looking at India. We're looking at other countries, not just the United States. And there are issues around the world. So we have big ambitions, and it's just a matter of many, many, many machines.
So I want to go back to the Inflation Reduction Act, because you just said, all these developments in other countries, all of that started with one guy who, had studied law, reading an act and thinking, hey, what can I do with this?
Correct.
Are you the only one who's done that?
Oh, no.
Probably not.
What happened? No. I got right on it. I got right on it as soon as the act was passed. And since then, others are there. The entire industry is financing tax credits. Whether they're doing it exactly in the same format as us, I'm not sure. But I do know, in getting some feedback from the insurance world, that the RAP policy, this credit enhancement feature, everyone's using it now. So. It's the investors love it. Now, there's been a few changes. The policy won't issue, the binder won't issue until you're placed in service. Our binder was issued at the very beginning before we had even started. So there's been some changes, and it's a moving thing, but it's being used very, very often.
So. You know how to think through these processes and structures, right? So I'm wondering now, it works for you, that's clear, right? Your business benefits from that kind of tax structure with credits and so on, and it leads to economic development. That is all good. But if you now look at it from the perspective of the government, say 10 years from now or whenever these credits expire, how good is it? How good of an investment is this for the government?
This is what I found interesting about the legislation. It was passed during, an administration that was Democratic.
Yeah.
But in reality, the policy there is a tax policy, which is usually a Republican thought.
Yes.
It was so interesting to me. And I think that when you do manipulate tax policy, you get reaction in the private markets. And that's what happened. Private industry, private developers jumped. And so you saw this migration of contractors, of all kinds of folks moving into the direction of renewable energy, because now this finance piece was available, driven by tax policy. And so how's the government going to benefit? The government benefits because it's all interrelated. If we have economic development in a certain area, community, that local community and the government of that community is going to benefit. You're going to have, sales tax coming in. You're going to have employment rise, you're going to have housing follow employment. And all of that, I think, is intermingled, and the government benefits maybe more than the private industry from it.
What have you seen that, would you say that the future for renewable energy really depends on a good collaboration between government and business? Is that fair to say?
Well, yes. Because private industry is going to do what it wants any given day, and I think there's the instigation a lot of times, the jab or poke from the government that's needed one way or another, and I think there's no question that one side needs to sort of push the private industry, and the private industry needs to lead the government in some ways in terms of economies of scale and efficiency. So they both need each other, and it's been that way for a long time in this country.
So you have had a career prior to this renewable energy initiative.
Right.
What do you like about this? What is new in your life?
So I've been in the services industry for a long time. Not creating a product, something tangible. Never thought I'd leave any sort of legacy to speak of. This is a product in my mind. It's a renewable energy development product and touchable, and it's beneficial to everyone, in my view. And so it's that. It's not just, hey, I'm going to give you some advice. It's I'm making something, and here you go, and it's supposed to help you. That's the change for me in the last 3 years.
And I mean, I see it in your eyes. You love doing
yeah.
what you do. But,
Oh, yeah.
But how is it to wake up every morning compared to 10 years ago?
Well, this is more intense.
Uh-huh.
This is way more intense. The Titanic wasn't built in a day.
No.
Not a great result with the Titanic, but my point is, planes are not built in a day.
No.
You know, ships aren't built in a day. Our office, I look down at the Port of Long Beach and the Port of LA every day, and just watching that activity.
All those
The shipping,
containers coming in.
and all of the products inside those containers. I mean, so, but nothing's built in a day. So as a product, this has been a very difficult but rewarding challenge, and I'm finding that the reward is overcomes the challenge, you know, the difficulty, and that's what gets me up every day.
So you're looking at those container ships coming in, and yes, many of those things obviously come from somewhere else because that's why they're on that ship. Now there is an administration wants to change that. Do you think that you can restore or revive American manufacturing with policies like the ones that have worked for your initiative?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. You know, the tariffs right now are obviously, there's a lot to talk about when it goes into those tariffs and everything. And you know, there was a lot of movement from containers before the tariffs hit because they were trying to get items into the country and everything. And now it's slowed way down in our ports, at least there. And I think that, you know, government policy, if smartly done and implemented correctly, can change things. As far as the tariffs go, I know it's actually a benefit to us. It's not a benefit to a lot of people, but the reason it's a benefit to us is because graphene is really a critical element. It's been declared that. Okay, it's important to renewable energy as well. It's going into batteries.
Yes.
It's going into computers. It's going structurally into cement and concrete. And most of the graphene in the world comes from China, and China is not going to deliver it here anymore. We're making synthetic graphene, and it's very beneficial to us, actually, not to have China sending it here. So for us, the tariffs actually were helpful, as odd as that sounds.
Are you a finance man or actually an entrepreneur?
I'm an entrepreneur, and I'll tell you why. I've been involved in a lot of startups, and starting from scratch and getting from A to Z is the fun, and I've done it a number of times. And so, do I know finance? Yes, I do. I mean, I know quite a bit. I've seen a lot at my age, but I'm more of an entrepreneur, and this one is the best, most enjoyable.
So what does Z look like in this current venture?
What does what?
But you're on a journey from A to Z. What does Z look like?
Oh, Z. Well, Z would be to make a dent in the plastic pollution. But you know, people's environment, for me, it's pollution. So, do we want to leave the earth worse than I enjoyed it to my children? And do they want to leave it worse than they enjoyed it to their children? So we have to peel back what we're doing to the earth. And to me, it's the pollution aspect. That's why it's about the landfills. It's about getting that out of there. It doesn't have to go there. And so I think Z is, do I get any feedback at Z that we made a massive dent? No, I don't need that at Z. I just need to know that we made a rewarding dent, and we've done that for our generations to come.
Thank you, Bob.